do you ever feel misunderstood? As an autistic person who's different from their peers, it's very easy to be misjudged by others who see things on the outside that are quite different on the inside. So in this video, I'm going to share one common way that I'm often misjudged, what I used to do that absolutely did not work, and how I manage the situation now that works a lot better. Hi everyone, Paul Mikolev here from Aspergers From The Inside. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So one way that I'm often misjudged, and maybe you can relate to this as well, is that I've often been told that I come across as arrogant in a lot of situations, especially when people first meet me, especially before you've really got a chance to get to know me in multiple settings as well. So this kind of makes sense from the outside because there are some things that I have a habit of doing that can easily be misinterpreted as being arrogant. And these kind of fall into two main categories. The first one is stating facts without realizing what they kind of imply. And the second one is distrusting experts and questioning things and needing to be convinced of myself before I put my trust in someone else. So that often comes across as I know better than someone else and I could do it better than them. So to start with the first one, I have a way of forgetting the way that other people think, because the way I see the world and the way I think just is often very different to the people around me. So for example, I have an extreme growth mindset, which means what matters to me is how hard you try and how well you do with the hand of cards that you've been dealt by luck and chance, right? So if someone is more intelligent or richer or more physically able or more whatever, like that's kind of like the hand of cards that you've been dealt, and you didn't really have any control over that. So I tend to not really care at all about things like status, money, intelligence, skills, natural skills in any given area. And so with that in mind, sometimes when I state certain facts about myself, specifically regarding certain skill sets that other people see as desirable, I just say them in a very open way that seems as though I'm boasting about my special skill in a particular area. So to give you an example, right? Most people wish they were more intelligent. Most people wish they were more athletic or had a better, sometimes people get jealous of my eye for detail or my ability to see things that other people don't see and come up with problems. And sometimes that can be really impressive for someone else who doesn't have that natural skill set. But from my point of view, I'm just going about my life doing the things that come easily to me, and I don't for a second think that somehow makes me better than other people. But if you have a fixed mindset, which is the opposite of a growth mindset, then your thinking will be more along the lines of, I need to be intelligent to be okay. If I can't do this thing, I'll never be able to do this thing. If I failed at a test, it's because I'm stupid, not because I need to work harder and try again. So to give you an example of this, I actually, there's a friend of mine who actually stopped talking to me forever, basically, because of something that I said around this type of thing that I just didn't realize the impact it was going to have at the time. So a few years ago, I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a 900-ish kilometer walk through the northern part of Spain, basically from the French border to the coast. And this is, I was walking about 30 kilometers a day. It was in summertime. It was often 35 plus degrees Celsius during the daytime, walking in the full sun, all of that. It's quite a physically demanding thing. Almost everyone struggles with blisters on their feet. Almost everyone struggles with muscle cramps and dehydration and fatigue and psychological challenge of just keeping on going and going every day. And I I am still pretty well built for walking. I walk a lot. Walking comes fairly naturally to me. And I didn't struggle as much as some people with some of those physical aspects. So when I was talking to a friend who actually found it extremely difficult, she walked for 30 days, and on the 30th day, she had just as many blisters as the first day. It was absolutely agonizing. And to me, that is incredibly inspiring. It was so difficult for her every day, and she kept going, and she did it despite all of the additional challenges that she had that I didn't have. So in my mind, that was like, wow, her accomplishment in my mind was so much greater than mine, because I walked, but it was relatively easy for me. Now, that makes sense if you have a growth mindset. She didn't have a growth mindset. She had a fixed mindset, which meant that what she heard when I said it was easy for me, I didn't really struggle with those things, she heard, I am so much better than you. I'm so much better than you that I didn't even have any of the troubles that you had. So, anyway, that was really distressing for me, because that is absolutely the opposite of what I was trying to say. By emphasizing the fact that I didn't have these issues, I was trying to say it's so amazing that you still accomplished this task with all of those challenges, and that I'm really inspired by that. But literally what happened, and I acknowledge this is a pretty extreme reaction, and most wouldn't have such an extreme reaction, but she actually didn't talk to me ever again. She was supposed to meet me as I went to the airport the next day, and then I left, and then just, that's it, no more contact. So I guess that's just a small example of how easy it is to be misunderstood if your philosophy and your mindset and what's valuable to you is so incredibly different to someone else around you. So that is how I'm often misjudged, even still to this day. Now, what did I used to do about this? I have known about this effect that I sometimes have on other people for quite a long time, and I developed ways to try and mitigate that problem, to try and make sure that other people didn't think I was trying to imply that I'm better than them in some way. So my old strategy was essentially to try not to draw attention to my strengths. If I had a skill that was above average, I would just not say anything about it. I would be overly modest. I could be objectively the best in the entire world at something, and I would say I'm pretty good. I could, so I would constantly underplay my abilities, constantly ignore my skills if they didn't come up. And if they did come up and I did have the attention on them, then I would downplay them to try and make it sound as if they were nothing. And sometimes that worked. Sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it sounded as though it sounded like it was false modesty and I was just being silly about it. But actually the reason that was so damaging as a strategy in general is because when I was hiding my natural talents, I was hiding a significant part of myself, and I did not feel comfortable. I did not feel relaxed. I did not feel welcome to be myself. So that's a type of masking, essentially, where I thought I'm not allowed to be myself. I have to make sure that the image that I project to other people is acceptable to the people around me so that they won't have a negative emotional reaction and stop talking to me forever. Which sounds extreme, except that it has happened on at least one occasion to me. So that wasn't very helpful, mostly because of the effect that it had on me, and it meant that I couldn't live life properly. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I couldn't put the effort into getting better at the things I would actually really like to get better at. Because, with my extreme growth mindset, even if I'm already the best, I still want to get better. So what do I do these days to mitigate this issue? Because I have to do something about this issue. If I don't do anything and I just act as I would normally act in every situation, there are going to be a significant number of people who will have a negative emotional reaction to my words and my behavior, and they will not want to talk to me. They will imagine that I'm the kind of person that thinks I'm better than they are, which is essentially not portraying my true self in that situation. So in order to communicate myself better, I need to modify some things so that I can be myself and be properly understood at the same time. So a couple of things that I do now is that I always point out, like if there is a tension on me, I always point out, or at least I try to, my own weaknesses. So if I'm really strong in one area, I'll say I can do this and I can't do this. So that's sort of one way that I try and put things in perspective without downplaying the thing that I can do very well. The other thing is to acknowledge the limitations of what I can do. Sometimes if you're really good at something and the other person is not an expert in that area or hasn't practiced that skill, it can seem extremely impressive. So I feel like I need to put that in context. I can do this very well, and here are the limits of what I can't do anymore. So sometimes that just puts things in perspective a little bit in that sense. One of the other strategies that's actually extremely useful and powerful is to consciously point out other people's strengths. That means that if someone is complimenting me on something, I can just accept that they're grateful and accept what they're saying without trying to downplay it. And I can say, that's great. And you also did a fantastic job here. You also have this skill set or this character trait or this habit that is inspiring and it's fantastic. And I envy you a little bit because you can do something that I can't do. And that kind of normalizes the fact that I can do something that they can't do if I draw attention to something that they are good at that I actually really struggle with. So I guess I still need to be really careful because especially when I'm tired, if I feel a little bit too open, a little bit too honest, I don't filter my own words. I even just a couple of weeks ago, this happened with someone I just met. Fortunately, they didn't just silently judge me. They actually called it out and they said, isn't that opinion a little bit arrogant? Are you basically saying that you know better than everyone else? And I was able to show, like sharing a little bit like I am now, like what am I actually thinking behind that? And I just remembered, speaking of things that I do well and not well, remembering things in a video is not always something I do well. I just remembered that there was a second way that people misunderstand that I'm arrogant. And that is when I distrust experts and it sounds as though I am saying, I know better, I'm more intelligent. Why would I trust someone with 50 years of experience and 5 PhDs, right? Now, on the surface, that kind of makes sense. But if you get on the inside of why do I have a general distrust for experts, it comes down to a fact that is very common, almost like a core part of the autistic experience. And that is, I am used to being different. I'm used to being the odd one out. And when a medical doctor, for example, says, oh, this treatment is absolutely fantastic. We did a trial. It worked on 99% of people. Fantastic. Like, that's great. What about the 1% of people? Because what if, and from past experience, this is more likely than not to be the case, what if I am in that 1% of people? So to make I need a little bit more info, a little bit more of an understanding of what's going on so that I can make sure that the assumptions that the expert is making, namely that, I behave and act and respond in the same way as your average person, I need to make sure that they're actually accurate. Otherwise, I'll likely end up in the 1% and the expert will still be right. It was still a fantastic solution for the 99%. But if I'm in that 1%, then it doesn't really matter if it works for everyone else if it doesn't work for me. So I guess to wrap up, one of the main goals of emotional intelligence is to manage the emotions of the people around you. Essentially, what you want to do is make people around you feel good most of the time. And if you can do that, and that's obviously quite challenging, and if you can do that whilst being an authentic version of your true self, then that's going to set you up really well. So essentially, the keys are: I needed to be honest with myself. I needed to be an authentic version of my true self. Otherwise, I'm going to be misunderstood from day one, because I'm not even projecting, I'm not even showing the true me. So whatever they understand is going to be wrong. I also needed to recognize that this problem is not with me. It's not my problem. It's a communication problem. And if I can communicate better, if the message that the other person receives is improved and there's a better match there, the problem is in communication. The problem is not with me as such. At the same time, I need to care about the effects of my behavior and my words on other people. If I didn't care about that, then I would make people around me feel bad a lot of the time.